Today, in the media conference with Lal Goel, which is brought to you by V4 News, Carunews, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV India, News Gaon Se, Samvad Sarokar News, Bharat Post News, Gyan, Organ Donation India Foundation, and Indo-Gulf Management Association. Our endeavor is to enlighten you with the current topic. And today's topic is first overseas IIT in Dubai. But before we will go on the main topic, I would like to inform you that today the world is mourning the untimely death of Mr. Shane Warne. Mr. Shane Warne, former Australian cricketer and spin bowling legend Shane Warne, has died at the age of 52 years due to a suspected heart attack. Warne was the second highest wicket taker in the history of Test cricket. Warne played 194 one-day international for Australia, in which he scalped 293 wickets. The right-hander was also handy with the bat, as he scored 3,154 runs in his Test career. He amassed 1,018 runs in the 50 overs format. The leg spinner took a total of 1,001 wickets and was the first ever bowler to scale the peak of 1,000 international wickets. In 2013, he was inducted into the ICC Hall of Fame. Media conference with Lal Goel pays homage to cricket legend Shane Warne. Now coming to our main topic, first overseas IIT in Dubai. The Indian Institutes of Technology IITs are autonomous public technical and research institutes located across India. It is under the jurisdiction of Ministry of Education, Government of India. They are governed by the Institutes of Technology Act 1961, which has declared them as institutes of national importance and lays down their powers, duties, and framework for governance. The Institutes of Technology Act 1961 lists 23 institutes. Each IIT is autonomous, linked to the others through a common council, IIT Council, which oversees their administration. The Minister of Education is the ex officio chairperson of the IIT Council. As of 2021, the total number of seats for the undergraduate programs in all IITs is 16,234. The first Indian Institute of Technology IIT outside of India is to come up in the United Arab Emirates and will be open to the Indian diaspora, foreign students, and Emiratis. The plan was discussed by the two countries under the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, CEPA, which is aimed at boosting trade between the two countries. A statement from the Ministry of External Affairs read, I quote, confirming the historical relations existing between the two countries and realizing the need to establish world-class institutions that encourage and support innovation and technological progress, the leaders agreed to establish an Indian Institute of Technology in the United Arab Emirates, unquote. Now, coming to our topic, we have a very, you can say, well-informed, knowledgeable, those who are authorities on this today's topic, that is first overseas IIT in Dubai. And I would like to invite my first panelist guest, and he is Professor Mohanlal Agrawal. Professor Mohanlal Agrawal is the former Professor of Marketing, Innovation and Management, IIM Lucknow, XLRI Jamshedpur, and California State University, USA. He is President of Indo-Gulf Management Association. He is US Fulbright Fellow Boston, EFMD Fellow Paris, and British Council Fellow London. In 2019, he was ranked among the 251 most fabulous global education leaders. Welcome, Professor Mohanlal Agrawal, on our show. Professor Mohanlal Agrawal, it is a matter of pride that till now we were listening that the students of India are going to study abroad for higher education in those institutions which are of very repute. But now it is the first time that a very important institutions, although other institutions have opened their campus outside, but a full-fledged campus is going to start in Dubai. It's a matter of pride, not only for India, but I think everyone, and especially those NRIs, the Pravasis who are staying in UAE, because earlier they have to send for the higher education, especially in IITs and IIMs, to India. But now they will have a chance to get their admissions, as well as this IIT will open the gates for all foreigners also, and including the residents of UAEs. So then it will be definitely a matter of pride for India. Now, we would like to know your views on first overseas IIT in Dubai. Professor Lal Goel, please.
Many thanks, Goel Saab, for such a brilliant introduction and for preparing such a wonderful runway for us to at least, fly our ideas, our theories, and our, I would say at this moment, projections for this wonderful project that the government has introduced for IITs. It is very easy to be emotionally invested in this idea. As you correctly said, that for Indians, it's a matter of pride when institutions of pride from India are at least exploring the markets internationally. And I think that will also be a big test for their self-proclaimed, sorry to say this word, or sometimes assumed power and knowledge, because you get the international test of what you are saying and what you are doing. But I would like to go into this issue very rationally and probably from a management professor's point of view or teacher's point of view, some strategic thinking around it. And perhaps it will also provide some ideas for others to understand. Let it be very clearly understood that no domestic brand is a big brand until it is tested outside the country in which it is made. And a very, very big example is Amul. Another example of the Indian brands which came outside from India, established their reputation outside India, and then they were able to command a premium even in their own home country. So the point which I'm trying to make here is that if IITs have to remain and retain their premium position, then they have to prove things outside India. And that particular thing should not be in doubt at all. In other words, it is not dilution. It is testing, it is international collaboration, and it is also international window for all the ideas that IIT students, IIT faculty, IIT administrators have. So from that point of view alone, it's a laudable step that the government has done. I am very much inclined to say and question the point that you made in the beginning, that they are autonomous institutions. I'm not sure that the word autonomous is very, very well applicable here. I would say autonomous within boundaries, autonomous within limits. For instance, I remember, and I hope Professor Sudhir Jain, who is from the same institution, Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi, would say that one director of IIT Delhi was hauled over coals because he had thought of bringing an overseas campus at about 10 years ago, Jain Sahab, or maybe more than that, that when he thought of bringing IIT campus outside India, he was almost, like fired by the ministry, that why did you do things like that? So where is the question of autonomy? I mean, it is almost like an autonomy where a college institution is created by a private entrepreneur, and that private entrepreneur provides the kind of autonomy that we all say, but there is hardly any autonomy. That autonomy is only with reference to your academic matter. But for strategic matters, financial matters, many other matters, there is only one person or one group of persons or one family that decides it. To me, something like that is also happening or happened so far in IITs, where the directors are selected, where everything is done exactly under the aegis of the Ministry of Education that you have already mentioned. But we will not go there. That is not the time at this moment. At this particular moment is, let us rejoice that something which should have been done 10 years ago, 12 years ago, has now been, or at least somewhere, it has got some kind of standing or some kind of projection, which are the blessings of the government. Now, so this was the external reason. The internal reason is that if you look into the IIT mission, IIT mandate, IIT vision, then you will see that they have never spoken about these things within the boundaries of the country. They had seen the global market, the global stage as their vision. That is another thing, that we had the students from India, and many students came through this category or that category, sometimes NRI category, sometimes paid category, sometimes corporate category. We don't want to go into that. But the number of those students was minuscule. It did not have anything. Plus, the international students did not have a chance to come and attend these institutions. So if you look into the new institution, I just, while we were talking, I opened just one institute, IIT Guwahati, which is among the new ones. And I'm just reading the mission that they have, or vision that they have. The vision they have written to be recognized globally for excellence in education, research, and innovation, and nurture future leaders to serve the society at large. In other words, the mission and vision of IITs, or at least new IITs, is also supporting this particular move, that we should be going global, that we should be going international. If you look into the mission statements also, or each and every of those 6 statements, and I can go into other vision statements and mission statements of well-established IITs, or I would say mother IITs, like IIT Delhi, Chennai, Kharagpur. If I look into, or Kanpur, if I look into all those 4, then they will also now have. Only thing is that their vision and mission were rooted in the time they were established. So that is why I have taken the modern IIT to talk about it. So how do you do that? Any institution which wants to grow anytime in quality, in excellence, or in any other way, according to ANSOF, has only 4 options. And let's see which option this IIT has taken and whether that option is good enough or not. According to ANSOF, there are 4 ways in which a company or any organization can grow. The first one, they call it market penetration. The second one, they call it market development. And the third thing they said was product development. And the fourth one is diversification. Now, if we look into the market penetration, then probably IIT should have been set up for B grade towns, for C grade towns also, so that, as Mr. Puri very correctly was saying, that the quality is maintained, and the institutions of questionable qualities are weeded out by the same currency principle, which says that good currency will throw the bad currency out of the market. So from that point of view, it could have been that particular option for them also. Why it has to be in the metros? Why it has to be in the new metros? Why not go into other, or even use the method of what IRMA has used, Institute of Rural Management, that go for rural IITs or some other kind of thing? That would have been the second step, called product development, that they could have done, and the product new development. So both the penetration and product development was there. But as a perhaps a policy advisor, if at any time I had the honor, I wouldn't use these 2, because these 2 would be doing more of the same rather than something different from what you are doing. And therefore, I would go to the third thing, and that thing was market development. In market development, you go to new markets, new territories, new places where you have not been there. And as a result, you can show this. I think IIT in Dubai is the right direction into this. They do have the fourth thing also. And that fourth thing was diversification, doing exactly what Atal Innovation Mission is doing. AIM, they could have done also in terms of startups, in terms of creating opportunities for them. So that particular option was open for them, but that would have been fraught with risks, with the deep investments, and possibly taking them away from their core competence, which is teaching, training, consulting. In the views of McKinsey, this would have been a little bit tough for them in terms of survival. And that is true also, because many educational institutions tried diversification and they couldn't do anything of substance, never mind of excellence. And eventually they had to come back to their original thing. IIM Ahmedabad is one great example of that failure. XLRI Jamshedpur, where I had the honor of studying at rather teaching 22 years, also is another example that we tried our hand in diversification and then we failed. So therefore we went back to the core competence. Now the question will be that now that we have chosen the right path in the ENSOF category, which is market development, why Dubai? I think I would be very happy to listen to Mr. Puri on this, because Mr. Puri has known the pulse of this market for decades and has made a success of it, and inspiring many, many more educational entrepreneurs who owe their presence to Mr. Puri and his institution, which he has done that. But the point of the matter here is, why Dubai? Very simple. In fact, there are 2 or 3 reasons which I can put, and there I'll stop and listen to my fellow panelists. Number 1, overseas is Dubai. It has overtaken Australia. It has overtaken Dubai. It has overtaken US. So from that point of view, it has become the destination of preference or choice, UAE. Second, in many ways, UAE is better India in terms of safety of the people, tranquility, prosperity, and even the ecosystem that we look for in higher education, in terms of educational opportunities for graduates in both startups, in both established businesses and governments and all that. And the third is that cultural difference or the cultural shock is of minimal quality when they come from India to UAE. So it makes sense to be in the more than I know. So therefore I will stop there. They came, they worked, they failed, they returned. I'm sorry, I'm saying the same thing. I was myself a votary as well as the creator of XLRI in Dubai. I created them in Dubai as well as Singapore. Both projects had to be folded. I'm also aware of IIM Indore, where I taught, that they came here and went back. They also had the same regions which we are talking about IITs. So critical success factors to me is of essence in the success of IIT. So bringing an institution here is a great idea. Making it successful will be the brilliant idea. That will be the essence of it. Why? Because I remember, and I was witness to that in 2008 when I came to Dubai, my next door neighbor was Michigan University. Mr. Puri, you will validate what I'm saying. They came here. They came with one big fanfare. At that particular time, the president of 𝐂𝐀𝐑𝐔 said, wow, we were waiting for this institute to come. They came. What a wonderful day. What a wonderful day. Within 4 days, 4 years, the institution was closed and they had to make arrangements for the students to study elsewhere because the institution was not going elsewhere. I do not want that particular thing to happen to IIT. If that happens, that will dent the brand of IIT, both in India and abroad, because then people will say, okay, they have come back because they couldn't make it to the international market. They will not say that they failed because of internal implosion. They will say they failed because they couldn't meet the competition. So with these things, Mr. Puri, Mr. Pramod, and Dr. Jain, I would like to hear from you. Thank you, Mr. Goel, for this thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Mohanlal Agrawal, for giving your views. And Professor Mohanlal Agrawal talked about the autonomy of the IITs. I think being an Indian, everybody knows that in India, there is nothing called autonomous today, whether it's a CBI or Election Commission or anyone. So it's just to say that IIT can be autonomous. No, it's not possible as far, but it is there as per the Act. It is an autonomous body. But what Professor Agrawal said is very, very important. He says to have a big name and a brand in India is different. But whether that name and brand will succeed in Dubai or any other countries is a difficult thing. It's not difficult, but it's a very challenging thing, one can say, because here they are getting that all comforts, whatnot, but there they have to compete with the top universities. They have to compete. They have to be in the international seas. And once you are international sea, you have to know how to swim in the international sea, not in a local river. The meaning of what Professor Agrawal wants to say. And he says so many institutions came, they were there and they folded up. So he says it is a very good thing for everyone, and especially for the those who are Pravasis or NRIs who are staying there. But only thing is that NRI, the IIT should keep their name and fame intact even in Dubai. So thank you very much, Professor Agrawal, for giving your very, very, I must say, forthright views so that people should understand, our viewers who are watching, and especially the youth as well as the educators who are now hoping to get something there and go there, but they should understand it's not easy. It's difficulties are there, but one has to accept the challenge, and I'm sure Indians are always accepting the challenge, and they may succeed, and they will succeed definitely. Thank you very much, Professor Agrawal. I would like to invite my next panelist guest, and he's Mr. Kamal Puri. Mr. Kamal Puri is the chairman of Skyline International Group of and Skyline University College, Sharjah, UAE. Mr. Kamal Puri is an entrepreneur, educationalist, and a visionary. He is the chairman of Skyline International Group and the owner of Skyline University College, Sharjah, UAE, and Skyline University, Nigeria, among many other education and techno companies. He is instrumental in establishing various social and business clubs in UAE and has been awarded with various awards and accolades locally and internationally. Welcome, Mr. Kamal Puri, on our show. Mr. Kamal Puri, you have heard the very, very frank and forthright views of Professor Mohanlal Agrawal. Now, you being a person who is there in UAE, providing the education, you have set up your own universities. You are the one of the very few, I can say, or might be the only one who issues the student visas for last so many years. And you know what Professor Agrawal mentioned, that so many institutions came, they were there and they could not conquer, in other words, that Dubai, and they have to fold it back their business, and or they have to institutions. Now, you being there, we would like to know your views on our today's very, very important topic, first overseas IIT in Dubai. Mr. Kamal Puri, please.
Thank you, Mr. Goel, for giving me an opportunity to talk to your audience, and especially for Middle East. I'm in Middle East from last 41 years. Let me talk about how the Indian education and UAE education system started on cooperation. I delivered a paper when Mr. Vajpayee was there. I requested him allow all foreign universities to enter India. Let the market forces decide. You want to give a certain seats to certain non-privileged people, put a condition that this percentage of seats will go to the weaker section or those who are excellent in academics. We started our India operation in 1996, bringing a foreign university into India. 2000, Supreme Court came up with the ruling stating that no foreign education on Indian soil. Then we went to Mr. T.A. Pai. We started with Manipal. When we started with Manipal, local degree, then UGC came and they said, you cannot, deemed university cannot operate out of their states. Then I decided, if the government is not consistent what they want to do, then let me wind up. So I wind up India. We are also operating in Africa. We have another university in Nigeria. The question is, I wanted in so many years, foreign education should go to India and Indian education should come to international market. Manipal started, as Professor Agrawal mentioned, BID started and all. He's absolutely right. I have an articulation with 150 institutions worldwide, where a student can do 1 year here, second year there, third year in a third country, and fourth year in somewhere else. What I observed, when Mr. Arjun Singh came, he was a human resources minister. He visited me in my campus and he said, I want Indian universities to go abroad, but not the foreign universities to come to India. I said, we have already crossed the boundary through the internet and nobody can control education. Please try to understand but still they were reluctant. Now, when I came to know that India is going to allow 100 top universities, same thing, Dubai has the same strategy in 1990, and I conveyed to the UAE government, no top institution will come to this country because they are not commercials. They get enough endowment all around the world. It is not possible that they will come for money here. Yes, they may go to India for research purposes. That could be the objectives. But they did not listen. Today, after 32 years, not a single top university is in UAE. As Professor Goel mentioned, you have a brand equity which is well known within your country. But when you go to the other country, you have to create your brands. IITs are well known. When we talk about Google CEO, we talk about Zomato, we talk about Mr. Narayan Murthy, you produce the alumni which are well known. There is a separate association in states for IIT. But when I look to IIT operating in UAE, there are many obstacles. What are the obstacles? UAE government from last 5 years have come out with the new rules and regulations where they have raised the bar. For your information, I cannot recruit anybody who's not from the top 400 universities in the world. My student faculty ratio is specified. Undergraduate program is taught by a terminal degree holder. A master degree holder cannot teach. Indian PhD was not recognized in 1990. I fought for it. Why? Because there was no taught component. Then I convinced them. It took me 4 years to convince them accept Indian degree, PhD, while giving an explanation of MPhil. Now, India is at takeoff now. Today, the world economy is not physical assets. It is a knowledge, it is an equity. Knowledge is an asset. And India is very good in that. I always tell all leaders, including Modi Saab when he came, I said, why we should be 33 million abroad? We can be 50 million ruling the world. And it is possible. And it is possible through applied education, quality education, etc. Now, strategic plan of UAE, when we look into 2030, 2050, IIT can contribute a lot in this. In the field of technology, in the field of AR, VR, metaverse, even space, science, etc. Now, IIT run undergraduate, postgraduate, PhD. But you ask a simple question, how many international students you have? When you go to international accredited agency like ASCSB, ABTA, or you go to QAA of UK, or you go to QS, their first question is, how many nationalities you have? So you don't get any ranking on that. What is your student and faculty ratio? If it is above 15, there is a question mark. There is a red flag. So what it boils down, even institution, a particular university, a 5,000 student or 7,000 student, it does not, the commercial sense of that university does not work. And if you are supported by government funding, accredited agencies are very much concerned about that. The fund should be either the tuition fees or through the corporate research. Now, in future, when I look to the education and IIT coming here, same problem was faced by BITS, by others. What are your admission requirement? Today, you can have luxuries of having JEE, rejecting students, doing this, all, because you are getting the best, you are making best to best. It's not a great job according to me. You give me average, I will make him best. That is the job. In India, students study by themselves because they have a fire in the belly. It is not the role of only faculty. And what is lacking? If, let's take example, PhD student or faculty doing research have come out with the great idea. How to commercialize these ideas as an entrepreneur. Today we have so many startups. All these has to be encashed. When I look to UAE, IIT coming into this market, I'm very happy. A quality institution is coming. Tomorrow they will approach to Harvard, they will approach to Oxford. But what is very, very important? India does not have a system, when I look back, of transfer of credits, whether it's consolidate or course by course. I want their student to come here to UAE study, maybe 1 semester, 2 semester. We get students coming all around the world. They study here 1 semester, 2 semester. We have faculty exchange program, student exchange program. So the flexibility, as Professor Mohan has mentioned, autonomous institution is very, very important. In case, if any institution wants to grow, and when I look to the fee structure of IIT in India, you can charge maybe 10 to 15 times higher in this market, and people will flock in. You will have many students even coming from Pakistan, studying in IIT. They want this quality of education, and they know the brand equity of IIT. But the question is, IIT has to follow. If they put, let's take for UAE national a quota system, then the question is, what will be the finished product? That is what you have to look, that point of view. Now, budget is the most important part of it. Whether government is going to fund it, or private tuition fee will come, or some investor will invest in this venture. But if they have this particular project successful, then they don't have to limit to UAE. They can invade whole GCC. They can go to Africa, which is a huge market. They can go to Eastern Europe. Because in future, when I look to education, number one size will not fit to all. We will be only menu provider to the student. Student will say, I want to do physics, I want to do business education, and I want to do IT education. We will be only provider. Number two, we will not be enrolling student for 3 years or 5 years or 4 years. I'll be enrolling student for lifetime. Where student will come to me and say, sir, I will study 2 years. He has gone to the industry. Industry has changed, sir. Agility. That is the third. And then future of the education is bricks and clicks. And clicks are taking over at a fast pace. When I look 2 decades ahead, 50% of the universities will not exist. Why? We don't require building. Metaverse will change the whole education system. We are working on augmented reality to bring the faculty into the drawing room. Not in places like university in bricks. So the question is, are you going to pace with the new changes of blended mode of education, or technology, putting a technology like AI? You are going to face huge challenges. So far, you were protected only in the boundaries of India. And now the Indian boundaries you are breaking. As Professor Mohan mentioned, many good universities came here, operated certain time, they are failure. I don't want to name, even well-known commercial university of India built up a campus of a 250 to 300 million dirham. Today, they don't have students. Many of that, they had to wind up because they don't smell market. They don't understand market. Skyline has more than 1,000 UAE national. Our emphasis on this, I'm not promoting on that, but what we have to understand, foreign institutions should go to India and Indian institutions should come abroad. Market forces will decide and then quality to be given. Thank you for giving me the time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kamal Puri, for giving your very, I must say, enlightening and thoughtful talk which you have given today. I'm sure all our viewers got now the fair idea about the about any institution which is going to Dubai, and especially now IIT is going to Dubai, whether it is going to be a very clear path or it will be with full of thorns. And but he has given many things he mentioned, but I would like to highlight one very important thing which he mentioned. And he says that there is a fire in belly in the students, and in India that's very much important. And they says they can study, they can come out with flying colors, but the only thing is, are we going to give them that type of education? He also mentioned one very important point. He says in India, the IITs are getting through the JEE the best of the best, the creamiest of the cream they are taking out. But the main thing is, are you taking the average student and making them the best? That is the main thing. So according to him, it's not that easy, which we are thinking, which we are very happy, because there are lots of difference in the culture, the education system, and the expectations which the international students are having in especially a place like UAE. And he says not a single top 100 universities are in UAE. In spite that Indian government in this new education policy or national education policy 2020 declared that they are going to open the gates for 100 top universities. But according to Mr. Puri, it's not feasible when they cannot come to UAE, which is quite advanced in comparison to the India, but still he's of that feeling. So according to him, it's a welcome move, but only thing is they must smell the pulse of the market first. They must do all those researches. They should very open mind. Total complete autonomy is required. If and the funding, which is also a very important point which he has made. He says internationally the funding has to be either the tuition fees or the research or the companies sponsored, corporate sponsored research, which is very important. And that's why in India there are no patents. I must admit this, what Mr. Puri says. I had one earlier media conference, and this is India is lacking the patents because we are not having those corporate sponsored research program. While abroad, Indians are doing research, they are getting those patents, but the patents are in the name of the corporate, not in the Indian's name. So we have brains, we have dedication, but we are not getting the credit. So according to him, if that is the way the government is planning to start this IIT in Dubai, then it will be a success. But if they think that they are going to fund only the things and apart from the tuition fees, then there is a question mark. Thank you very much, Mr. Kamal Puri, for giving so much, I must say, detailed things. I think one of the universities should provide you DLIT in this. Your research is remarkable. I'm not saying even PhD. So in India, everybody knows how we are getting it. But because I'm not sorry, I'm not making any assessment, but there are private universities who are doing it. Is very unfortunate. But thank you very much, Mr. Puri, to enlighten all of us, and including all our youth who are watching our program today or who are going to watch it afterwards, because the recording is always available on YouTube. Thank you very much. Now, I would like to invite my next panelist guest, and he's Professor 𝐂𝐀𝐑𝐔 𝐍𝐄𝐖𝐒. Professor Jain is the former Vice Chancellor, Sri Mata Vaishno Devi University, Katra, J&K, and former Professor and Head of the Department for Management Studies at IIT Delhi. He is the Director General, National Institute for Entrepreneurship and Small Business Development, NIESBUD, Government of India. He obtained his PhD degree from IIT Kanpur in 1979 and has taught economics, entrepreneurship, and intellectual property rights at IIT Delhi for over 35 years. He was also professor at Atal Bihari Vajpayee School of Management and Entrepreneurship Jawaharlal Nehru University, and Professor Emeritus at Netaji Subhash University of Technology. Welcome, Professor Sudhir Kumar Jain on our show. Professor Jain, you have heard Professor Mohanlal Agarwal as well as Mr. Kamal Puri, and both have given fair idea because both are based in UAE and they know the pulse of the UAE well, far more than us because we are sitting here. But you being so much exposed and having vast experience in during your tenure in IIT Delhi as well as the Vice Chancellor of a very reputed university, we would like to know your views on our today's topic, that is the first overseas IIT in Dubai. Professor Sudhir Kumar Jain, please.
Thank you very much for the very kind words. And I am really privileged to have listened to Kamal Puri ji and Dr. Mohan Agarwal before me. So I like to incorporate, and I have all appreciation for what all that they have said. So first, we have to talk about why IITs are important, have become important. As it was rightly said, that we have to prove ourselves abroad, not within the country, then only we are recognized. And how IITs proved themselves abroad, it was because of the, firstly, the IITians who migrated to USA for a better living, better income, etc., and higher education in 1970s particularly, and then subsequently in 80s, etc. The more than 50% of the Silicon Valley startups were by IITians.
Excuse me, Professor Jain.
Yeah.
Can you just tilt your this thing, your laptop screen towards? Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. So this is how IITs became very well known in USA, and most of the US universities have got professors, deans, and other higher level academicians who are IITians. They had the first degree at IIT, and thirdly, that IITians have been CEOs in quite a good number of MNCs in USA. So this is how we have proved ourselves abroad. And in terms of secondly, that what Kamal Puri has said is very correct, that you take the best and produce the best. The challenge is really where you take the, not the best and then convert them into the best. It's very, very important. And I am also full supporter of opening of the education sector in India as well as in Dubai, UAE. Okay. But now I think both are opening up. It's a very good thing. Now we have to talk about the impact. Impact can be considered in the short term and long term, and also the implications if depends on the vision. We have short-term vision or long-term vision, and this I think was implicit in Puri Saab's talk, that what is the vision, and whether we want to make IIT Dubai as the best in the world or in the top 100 ranking in the world, or we want to have just one IIT outside India. It depends clearly, everything in management we talk is vision. What is our vision and how we proceed for that? That is the most important thing. And now whether in this IIT Dubai, we are going to follow the reservation system or not. I'm not very clear about it, because in India, we have compulsions, but abroad, but it is a Ministry of HRD initiative, whether they will follow any such policy. Same is true for faculty, staff, students. But if it is not there, I think we can be in the top 100 and in the top 50 and then in the top 10. It is quite easy. In the beginning, again, the second thing will be that how it is going to be funded. As Puri Saab said, it should be largely by the tuition fee and research funding and also the endowments. So if we are able to get the endowments, then it is the first 20 or 30 years. Subsequently, the alumni funding will be in good quantity. Okay, the first 30 years are important in terms of funding. So this is, it is a big question that how we look at it, how it would be like this. And the second thing is whether the faculty will be going from India from the current IITs, or it will be hired? And thirdly, that the faculty which is hired, what will be the ratio proportion of the permanent faculty and the visiting faculty and the faculty on secondment? Okay, like in ISB Hyderabad, they don't have very large number of permanent faculty. Faculty members come for secondment or as a visiting faculty, visiting professors for USA and so many other countries, and they are teaching. So what is the kind of model we have? These are all the issues which are very important, which will be, in terms of its, impact. Now another thing which is very important from the point of impact, we will be able to give admission to Indian diaspora abroad, particularly in Gulf countries and more so in Dubai and UAE. But you look at it, a very large number of Indians working there at the worker category, they are able to afford with their savings some engineering education in India, okay, which is about 40 or 50,000 rupees annually or 1 lakh rupees per annum. But will they be able to afford this IIT education for their children? I doubt very much, because I have traveled to Dubai twice and I have traveled to about 34 countries and so much of exposure. And I have got fairly good knowledge about people, NRIs working in different countries in what positions and all that. So they will not be able to educate their children there. And this question will remain the question because of the high tuition fee that will be charged in this IIT Dubai. Now, a few more issues are there, which are, I just noted down a few things, that the IIT Dubai, how we are going to create it? Is it by one IIT or by one professor who is writing a blueprint of it, or it is a consortium of IITs? Because I know when I did PhD at IIT Kanpur, we knew that IIT Kanpur was creation by a consortium of 9 top US universities, including MIT, Yale, Harvard, and so many more. So 9 top US universities came together and gave the system of IIT Kanpur. So whether we are going to have a consortium of 4, 5, 6 IITs and then come up with a model for IIT Dubai, or it is to be done by one IIT, depends who is going to do mentoring of it. Now, the impact would be that, there'll be what UAE had very rightly started reducing its dependence on oil. And if I remember correctly, it is about only 20% dependence on oil, and rest is all tourism and other things. So that way, so many more students come, their parents come to Dubai, it will lead to their, still lesser dependence on oil. And in next 30 years, the scenario worldwide is going to change substantially because of e-vehicles. The importance of oil will substantially reduce, and all the Gulf countries will have difficult times, it appears. So in that sense, it will be a very good thing in terms of its impact on the UAE, and it will be pride for UAE. And we are having a very strong relationship with UAE, India and UAE. And now there are certain, if you managerial issues before I close, that what will be the fee structure? It will be uniform for all, or it will be a differential fee structure, depending on the income, nationality, or any other criteria. Second is that whether it is going to be financially supported by Government of India's budget, or what exactly would be the overall funding structure. And third is that how the faculty would be taken, as Puri Sahab said, the only 400 top US universities, there only the faculty can be taken from there. But it is not necessary that, because in those universities, there are people, if you have a normal curve, it is only the mean which is different. But there are excellent people in faculty members passing out from other universities. And also there are, bad, more mediocre kind of faculty members coming out from those 400 top 400 QS ranked universities. So it is also important that, the system cannot be so rigid, because some people grow up later, and there are so many such examples in the past. Historically, the top scientist, somebody said he can't do anything, but he turned out to be a great scientist. And same is true for so many Nobel laureates. It's like first Nobel laureate of economics, John Tinbergen. He was a physics master's in physics. He was a physicist, but in 1930s he remained unemployed for long, and he switched over to economics because most important thing. Now, coming to the last point, it will be very important for IIT Dubai. What is the system we give to students who are studying there? In IITs in India, the system is quite well established. Their academic curriculum, flexibility, and their extracurricular activities, co-curricular activities, all these things are very important. And the inputs in education, one very important thing is also whether the IIT Dubai is going to have engineering and technology as a focus, or it will be a more university with more disciplines, not only at the postgraduate level, which IITs started with earlier, like humanities department was the support department. But now most of the IITs have started their the present undergraduate programs and postgraduate programs in other than engineering. So there is a BTech, MTech, PhD in engineering, in sciences also these are there, in management also there. And we have to have a system of all disciplines functioning together, or only technology. My personal opinion is to start IIT Dubai with all variety of education at all levels, because that will give them a great advantage and or anything. So the flexibility would be the added advantage, and they will have an edge over IITs in India. Otherwise, it will be one more institution and will not be able to get, the students will not be able to derive the advantage they can. And I think with this, I would like to end. And thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share my views on this aspect.
Thank you very much, Professor Jain, for giving your very, very practical aspect about the future of the IIT Dubai. He being the professor at all, on what basis, because there are different nationalities and the financial thing, etc., etc. So that is one thing which, according to Professor Jain, is very important. Secondly, he says whether that the institution, the IIT Dubai, is going to be mentored by one IIT or it's a consortium of many IITs. It is also not clear to discuss right now, because we don't know what is going to happen. But according to him, if it will be done in a proper way, then it can be a success. But if otherwise, it will be one of the IITs like we are opening in India also. And he also made a very important point about what Mr. Puri said, that in UAE, it's very clear that only you can appoint the faculties from the top 400 universities, but whether they will be, and it's a very rigid, according to Professor Jain. If it is like this, then how the professors will be appointed or the faculty will be appointed, that is also to be seen. So many things he says, and according to him, the financial part also, because the majority of the Indians in UAE are of the labor class, or those who are doing that type of work. So they will not be able to afford the fees which IIT Dubai, according to Mr. Puri, was saying that they can charge more, and yes, they can charge more, but whether they will be able to afford or not, who is going to pay, and who is going to pay for the entire IIT Dubai, whether it's a government of India through their budget, or some the research things as a research fund, as Professor Mr. Puri has suggested, as well as the endowment, etc. So that all things are not yet clear, but according to him, it's a welcome move. Only thing is that everything should be taken care very carefully. Thank you very much, Professor Jain, for giving your views. Here, yes, Mr. Puri wants to add something. Yeah.
Professor Jain, let me thanks for the lovely insight. UAE has a rule of 75% full-time faculty. Number one, faculty is supposed to perform three functions. One, teaching. Second, research. Third, services to the community and services to the campus. The undergraduate teach only 12 hours in a week and postgraduate 9. But if you are allocated any admin job, 3 credits are taken away. As far as if it is a government institution, all UAE national will study free.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Puri, for giving your input.
Just one minute, that say if there are 75% permanent faculty, then say for the existing institution, it will be all right. But I don't think it will be a good model for IIT Dubai. We will have to relax this assumption, and with your good offices and good connection with the Dubai, the government, I think we should have not more than 50% as the permanent faculty, because we should be able to invite people like ISB Hyderabad model is very, very successful model. And ISB Hyderabad model, we should adopt for IIT Dubai. And your good officers, you have to convince this thing, what do they want? You know, I can tell about my vision. I have been in the IT system for over 40 years plus, 45 years. But what UAE wants, what Dubai wants out of it, whether they want it comparable to MIT in the top 100, or they want it to be following the rules, because more the constraints, weaker is the optimal solution. Okay. So that thing I would like.
Okay.
That's
Thank
my
you.
suggestion. Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Jain. Now I would like to invite my last but not the least panelist is Professor Dr. Pramod Patak. Professor Dr. Pramod Patak is a reputed international corporate trainer, public speaker, blogger, and columnist. He is the former professor and head of management studies, IIT Dhanbad. He is postgraduate in psychology and an MBA with PhD in stress management from Banaras Hindu University. He is a reputed management and psychological consultant and is founder of Kaizen Mantra, a training and consulting organization. He has also founded the Goodness Movement that aims to spread positivity through writings and lectures. His columns are published in leading newspapers and periodicals, and his blogs are read globally. He was also on Faculty Institute of Management, BHU. Having guided over some 30 PhDs successfully, he has written several books and over 100 research articles in reputed journals. As a global lecturer, he has delivered talks at various international seminars, conferences, and workshops in several countries. Welcome, Professor Dr. Pramod Patak on our show. Professor Patak, you have heard Professor Agarwal, Mr. Puri, as well as Professor Jain. All have given they welcomed this move, but they have also mentioned about the challenges which the IIT Dubai is going to face. And like Professor Agarwal mentioned, how many of the institutions came and gone back. Mr. Puri gave the practicality of the country's insight, Dubai's rules and regulations, etc. And Professor Jain has given the administrative part and the practical part, what his own experience in India, and he wants that if IIT Dubai has to be in the top 10 institution in the world, like MIT, etc., then what is his vision? Now, we would like to know from you, your views about the first overseas IIT in Dubai. Professor Dr. Pramod Patak, please.
Thank you, Mr. Goel, and I greet all your co-panelists, Mr. Puri, Professor Jain, and Professor Agarwal, and of course, my greetings to all your viewers who are watching this show. First of all, I was listening to the three speakers before me, and they had a lot of ideas, a lot of suggestions, and a lot of what we call intuitions also. And in the course of the discussion of those three panelists, as a student of psychology, I have a humble submission to make that there were certain what we call assumptions, there were certain generalizations, and there were certain speculations also. So I like to take a different path because I come from a system which is different in the sense that when I joined Indian School of Mines, it was not an IIT, but it was a center of excellence much before the IITs had come into existence. That was in 1926, and then we moved ahead So it was only in 2016 that we got the name of tag of IIT. I don't call it upgradation because it's not the right expression to use. So we were named an IIT. So it became IIT ISM Dhanbad 2016. Before joining ISM and later on IIT, I worked with Banaras Hindu University. So I have seen the university system. I have seen the what we call the autonomous institute system, and I've also seen the IIT system. Professor Agarwal mentioned something about autonomy, and to a certain extent, he's right that in fact autonomies are more some kind of a expression to sell the institutions freedom. But by and large, there is some control, and that is right also, because you cannot have an institution without controls. So that, of course, is, the choice between what we call complete control and laissez-faire, which is not possible. So there has to be some middle of the road approach. So that is how it operates. The IITs also operate like that. Now, the issue that is important today is whether this model of going abroad to Dubai is going to work, and if work, with what model. In fact, I don't remember exactly what happened when IIT Delhi had a proposal to do some campus in Singapore or something. There was some controversy, but that was at the ministerial level, and the minister and the director and so many things happened. But
it was at Mauritius.
I doubt, sir.
Dr. Jain, which was the place?
Mauritius.
Okay.
I'm right.
Anyway.
So I take from IIT, but I know more about IIT.
So anyway, Mauritius or Singapore, that was not the issue which I raised was something else. The director and the, of course, minister. Anyway, so that is not the point of discussion over here. But in 2018, I have a first-hand experience because I was asked by my then director to explore possibilities of opening a campus in Middle East, particularly Muscat, Oman, and Bahrain. These were the two options we had because there were people approaching from those countries. So the person from Bahrain, the entrepreneur and the vice president of Gulf University, he visited our institute. And then we had a lot of discussions and we tried to find out how to go ahead. And then subsequently, the other entrepreneur and MD of Mazoon University, Oman, Muscat, he also visited our campus. So we tried to take it forward, but those days the government was not keen on letting IITs open campuses in foreign soil. So somehow the idea did not take off. But as of now, after the new education policy has been introduced, I think there is comparatively lesser bottlenecks on such ventures. And it may, I think, go ahead fine. The only issue is what model. So according to me, the problem with the IITs is that they have to follow some certain standards. And there I differ from Mr. Puri that that cannot be tampered with in any case as of now. So naturally, those what we call entry standards have to be maintained because that is why a degree of IIT is valued outside the country. In fact, as very rightly said by, in fact, Jain Saab and even Puri Saab, that the Silicon Valley and the Bay Area and all those places, the IITians are recognized and valued because of the kind of rigorous training and education they are provided in the institutes. So naturally, one thing which Mr. Puri mentioned is a rather very difficult thing to achieve. He said about the average student being converted into excellence. So as a student of psychology, I find that there are individual differences which do matter. No matter how rigorous training you provide, the basic things still remain, and there is a certain level in every individual to which he can aspire. So sky is the limit, not for everybody. So that is a ticklish issue to debate upon, and it's very difficult to come to any conclusive findings on this because see, as I said that individual differences are there, and there are certain basic requirements which have to be there. So now how to, take this issue, how to make an entrance exam which is not of the level of IIT, and then at the same time give entry into IIT system, that is a difficult issue. And this has to be thrashed. But what I would like to say is that to begin with, there is no need to start with the BTech programs, although the demand is there for the BTech programs, and that is what people want there. But to begin with, we can go with a center of excellence at the highest level, and then like research and other things. So we start with that, and then we do some testing of waters, and I think we'll get a good response, because the demand is there. Demand is certainly there, because in the Middle East, they want a technical institution like IIT to be opened there, because they are already running many institutions with some kind of an arrangement with American universities or British universities. So naturally, they also would like some of the top ranking Indian institutes, particularly IITs, to open campuses there. And that is how I had been sent by my institute to Muscat, and then we invited them from Muscat and Bahrain to Indian School of Mines. And we had a quite, I think, extensive discussion on that. But because those days the policy was not there, so we were helpless. But still, we had entered into some kind of an arrangement regarding what we call centers of excellence, collaboration, inter-faculty exchange, and things like that. But somehow, because there was a change of guard in the institute, so that did not materialize. Now, coming to this issue about now opening the campus in IIT, my views are that I think it's an idea worth examining. See, what happened 5 years ago, and why XLRI failed, or why even BIT Mishra failed in Muscat, they are all, I think, history. That does not mean that whatever new we try will fail. So the best thing is to give it a try. And then I think we are into a new age today. What happened 10 years ago, what happened 2 years ago is something else, 3 years ago. Today, we are in a different era. And in such an era, I think competing with the best in the world will give you an edge. Already, IIT students have proved their worth, and Indian faculty have also proved their worth in countries like Singapore and US. So that way, we have that what we call the basic what we call eligibility to enter into the market. And of course, as Professor Mohan Agarwal said, that market development. So this is an effort into that area, market development. So our products have already been tested in the market. Now the question is taking that production system to that international market. So I think there's nothing wrong in that. The idea can be tried, and only thing is the model. So for as far as I am concerned, the model should start with top down. That means we start with the highest degrees like PhDs and research, and then gradually go down to postgraduate and then BTech, because BTech should be the last course to be started with, because BTech is the real ticklish issue in IIT system. So for BTech, I think the modalities have to be thrashed out very seriously, and how to make sure whether reservations will affect the quality, because they do, of course. So in fact, but as I understand, I think in an offshore campus, that reservation issue should not arise. That's what my feeling is, and it will not arise. So, but that is, of course, up to the government to decide. Then the question is how to start. I mean, who will be the what we call the force behind the institution? So, of course, government has to be a player there, and they may look for some kind of an entrepreneurship collaboration with some big entrepreneur from the country or the government of this UAE and things like that. Those things are matters of discussion, debate, and of course thinking. I mean, seriously. So I think as of now, the question IIT campus in Dubai is a very welcome move, and I think we need to go ahead with it. Only thing is, with very careful planning and a long-term perspective of say 10 years, 20 years, how do we propose to go about it? So that is what is more important. Since the new education policy has allowed for all those what we call the flexibilities which Mr. Puri was mentioning about physics with economics, those things are now, I think, more flexible. So that also facilitates the opening up of this campus in Dubai. So that way, as far as I am concerned, I think it's a welcome move and it may give desired results in due course. Only thing is the model. So that we have to be very careful, because there'll be another view that we should start with the BTech because that is the course which is in maximum demand. But my suggestion, or my views rather, is that we should start with research, centers of excellence, and then gradually develop it into a full-fledged institute of technology. So that is my humble submission. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Patak, for giving your views. And Professor Patak made a very, very important one point, and that is, which I make many points, but one of the point is about that we should start with the center of excellence, with the research first, and then we go down, not from the BTech and go up, because he says then only it is going to succeed. And he also mentioned about his past experiences about the Oman and Muscat, etc. But that time the government has not opened the policy, but now the policy is open. So let's hope that, and he also welcomed the move, and he says, but only thing is the model should be decided beforehand, and it should not happen what has happened with the earlier institutions. Thank you very much, Professor Patak, for giving your views. Now my question goes to Professor Agrawal. Professor Agrawal, recently we are seeing what is happening in Ukraine, and though students who are from India, they are facing lots of problem there, but because that is all where the government, there is no initiative from the government side to have the university there. That's their local colleges or medical colleges where the students are going. But here in UAE, it's going to be the IIT will be from the government side or the IIT side. Do you think in tomorrow, although God forbids tomorrow we should have such type of problem, but in case such type of problem, because now we have seen and so much thing is coming in media, why the students are going abroad and why we are taking such type of education thing. Do you think it will also impact this project which was declared and now this Ukraine war has come? What are your views about
that? In all fairness, you have raised a very, very pertinent and extremely important question, and we must respect that question with a very correct answer. In my opinion, today geopolitical situation is such that anything can change, anything can happen. And maybe you have already heard that a couple of small missiles fell in Abu Dhabi also because of whatever Yemen is, or all those things are happening. So such things may, I do not know, but definitely there is a possibility. But going back to the point of that with relation to IIT, I would say that should not be a consideration, because this is a very peaceful place. This is a place where they have taken a very, very visionary ideas other than, and I don't want to say Ukraine is not a visionary. Everybody is visionary, but there are, points of view difference. So I would say the risk to the students and to the geopolitical situation as a result of this university is the same as any American university outside America in those countries which are not very much, let's say, friendly to US. There are several universities in Qatar, there are several universities in other places, but usually the situation is, as I said, the same as any other.
Okay.
Can I make one point which I would like to just very simply
please go ahead.
Mr. Pramod mentioned about the core of the IIT as the basis of the acceptance in global. I totally understand, but he's only making points, slightly stretching the point, because only a tiny majority of the IITians have gone outside India. Most of the IITs have been in India because of the unitary kind of population we had in IIT. If they are coming to Dubai, I would go with the model of what Mr. Puri said, that it should be most diverse, global, and modern. Competencies are never compromised by these three things. So therefore, my thinking is that they should be going more for diverse, and also fees. The fees should not be reduced, in my opinion, humble opinion, because an institution doesn't become great because it is affordable. It has become great because it is allowing everyone access to that particular thing with the variety of means other than the fees also. So fees doesn't make it. That's the thing I would like to say.
Okay, thank you, Professor Agarwal. Although when you have mentioned about the fees, the other day we were doing about the educational reforms in India, and one of the panelists told that in the India nowadays the government is controlling in the private and unaided schools or the colleges fees, which is very unreasonable. And he gave the reason that if you are having 30 students or 25 students in a class and the other institution is having 60 students, how the fees can be comparable and the facilities. So we don't know what is going to happen in IIT Dubai, but yes, you have made a very good point. Let's see that. Now my question goes to Mr. Puri. Mr. Puri, you mentioned about the ranking, that first 400, only from there we have to take. In that case, India is almost out because we have very few institutions who are ranking in the first 400. So do you think the IIT Dubai will have all those who are from the foreign universities, either those Indians who have been trained there, educated there, or the foreigners will be in the faculty in IIT Dubai? What do you say about this, Mr. Puri?
Thank you, Mr. Goel. Professor Jain has mentioned a flexibility to be shown by the Ministry of Education. We have in 32 years, first thing we all have to understand the difference between brown skin and white skin. It is still an impact is there. I'm on the board of various US universities. I keep on talking on this issue with them. There is a case study. A gentleman runs a number of schools here, more than 45 schools. When a regulatory authority came, there were Australians, US nationals, etc. They decided rating, and none of his school appear, only one school after a few years appear in that. And his school is a quality-oriented school. But the problem was Indian schools on this. 1999, the Minister of Higher Education hired a team out of the toughest agency of US. US, we have 7 agencies. NESAC is the most toughest agency. They visited us. We were running British education. You require 16 years of education for masters. British was 12 plus 3. We were giving a foundation. Their eyebrows were raised. Within a year, I switch over from British to American, 4 years degree, and then launch on this. What I want to convey, for IIT, for anybody, they will not amend their rule. If their rule is at 75%, it will remain 75%. It will not be any amended. Yes, IIT has a choice. Do they want state government approval? Dubai will give them. But if they want a federal government approval, they will not give them. Professor Pramod has spoken very well on a hit on the things. Let's take example. Harvard is operating in Bombay from number of years. When you start short courses, when you start research, when you start consultancy, when you start startups, this will work. Why? Because you don't come under the regulatory authorities of a long-term degree. When you launch a degree, divide the degree into certificate, diploma, associate degree, and a bachelor degree. This is what I have done so many years. Product is one, I divide on the basis of 4 different products. I have a student doing 4 years. I have a student doing maybe 3 courses. I have a student doing 12 courses. I have a student doing 2 years. So flexibility. So putting into that, this is possible, but these are the constraints which IIT is going to fix.
Okay, but you have not given the answer to me that
Go ahead.
how the universities, because we have only very few institutions who are in the top 400, which even Professor Jain also mentioned.
Yeah, let me answer that. When we were running an education in 90s and 2000, they made all terminal degree holder under British education system. There are very few limited terminal degree holders. So problem, but they have fixed a standard. Will you believe 3 accredited agencies have visited us from the ministry? One of them has raised what? We have a risk management manual. Our everything is ERP, starting from governance, vision, mission, purpose, goals, objective, curriculum, learning support resources, risk management. In risk management manual, there was not the things written on terrorism. They have given us a negative points on that. Why it is not written? So they will not compromise on standard because of a one Indian institution.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Puri, for giving your very informed views about the Dubai regulations, and which is required because we have to follow those when we are in Dubai. Do as Romans do. It all is a thing. Now I would like to go to Professor Jain. Professor Jain, what is your one top suggestion which you would like to give to the government of India after listening Mr. Puri and Professor Agrawal who are in UAE? What you think that IIT Dubai should good model according to you, but one suggestion only because that was positive.
In terms of one suggestion, I think it should be that it is contrary to Professor Patak's view, because higher education, research degree and all that require funds. Whereas the whole question is where to get the funds from. Will Government of India give so much of funds for doing research there? Possibly no. So I have a different viewpoint, and that is that we should start from the undergraduate level in all fields and let it be a system where people can come from all parts of the world.
Okay.
That is my
suggestion. Thank you, Professor Jain. Now my last question goes to Professor Patak. Professor Patak, you have heard what Professor Jain and Mr. Puri has mentioned. Now my question to you is, in India, IITs, are they self-dependent or they are dependent on the government funds? If they are dependent on the government's fund, why not these IITs in India should become the self-dependent, and then only we should think for IIT Dubai. Otherwise, what Mr. Puri said, Professor Agrawal said, and Professor Jain says, that funds is, if the government funds, then there are lots of restrictions, as Mr. Puri has already explained. What do you say about this, Mr. Patak?
I think that is a rather far-fetched idea, because government, not any present government, in the past also it has been happening, governments will not like to lose control over the institutions. First thing. Second, as far as the question of self-sufficient financing is raised, I think many of the IITs, including we also at one point of time, had raised a corpus similar to what the grants we get. But that is not the issue. The issue is that government control will be there. That is why the IIT Council is there. It is directly under the Ministry of HRD, Government of India, and Secretary, and these things are there. So that will not be possible.
Okay. Thank you, Professor.
One second. One second.
Very small point. Yeah.
One. British, Australian, Canadian, Indians cannot take education abroad. Reasons: this is a taxpayer money. If you lose it, you finish. 91, when I started 90, same problem I faced with the British government. I opened my company there, losses were mine. Profit flow back to the university. So when you are talking about government, taxpayer will say, who are you to take my money abroad and lose? This is none of government purview. So what they have to do, they have to invite private entrepreneur to come invest, and then we can take it. Canadians have done same. Australians have done same. British has done same.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Puri. So viewers, you have seen today, our topic is very good, and it's a welcome move that our institution is going Dubai. But is it so easy? No. It's not, as our experts had mentioned. And one point which has come out, whether the government, whichever government, would like to lose the control on IITs, according to our panelists, no. If they are not going to lose the control, and if they, then that is only possible if they are going to fund it. Because if any private investor is going to fund, definitely he or she would like to, or that corporation would like to set the world regulations and the rules and the all those things, which is not many things which will not be acceptable to the government of India. And government of Dubai, or the Dubai's government, is also very strict as far as the education is concerned, as Mr. Puri has mentioned. So we will wait, we will see what is going to happen, because it's too premature right now. It's a declaration done recently, very recently, I think about 10-15 days back. We have to wait. Once it will formed, then definitely we would like to have one more session of this, and we will discuss about this, because we have lots of good ideas and experts. But one thing, one suggestion definitely I would like to give from my side to the government: please involve the stakeholders. Please take the views like Mr. Puri, Professor Agrawal, Professor Jain, Professor Patak, and many, many more. We have lots of stakeholders who are well versed about IITs as well as the Dubai regulations and whatnot. Then only we can proudly say that India is going to be the global leader even in IITs. Thank you very much. And today's program has been live telecasted by V4 News, Carunews, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV India, News Gaon se Samvad Sarokar News, Bharat Post News, Gyan, as well as shown live on Facebook and YouTube. And our endeavor to bring to you everyday new topic on Media Conference with Lal Goel at 10:30 am. And tomorrow our topic is Ukraine War, Impact on India. And our panelists are Professor Dr. R.K. Arya, Professor International Economics, Manav Rachna Institutional Institute of Research and Studies, Faridabad, courtesy Professor Mohanlal Agrawal, and Dr. Puneet Dublish, Associate Professor, Jaipuria Institute of Management, Noida, and Wing Commander U. Satyan, retired from Indian Air Force. So we will be analyzing the impact of war, good, bad, who is right or who is not. That is not our subject. We would like to know, analyze about the impact on India. So please tune in tomorrow for Media Conference with Lal Goel at 10:30 am. Thank you very much, Professor Mohanlal Agrawal. Thank you very much, Mr. Kamal Puri. Thank you, Professor Sudhir K. Jain. And thank you very much, Professor Pramod Patak, for enlightening us. And I'm sure today, viewers, you are very much enlightened. It's not good. It's a very welcome move, but it's we have to see whether it's so easy, so many challenges, so many rules and regulations. But definitely the day has to come when we can go abroad with flying colors. Thank you very much.